And now, we talk about food. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffany Deku. Here we talk about all the food happenings around Acadiana. If you like food, tune in. You might learn something new. UL baseball just finished up. We were anxiously waiting in the lobby to see if the show was going to happen tonight. And just your luck, you get us for about 28 minutes tonight. So going to be a shorter show than normal, but you still get to enjoy the Lafayette Food Junkie radio show. Joining me tonight as guest co-host is Ramsey Morien. Did I say it right this time?
You sure did.
I remember last time it was a big thing. Because in my head it was differently. She's been a guest on the show before. Used to work in the food industry, has retired from the food industry, but her heart is still there. And she's a lady that loves to cook. So we have her joining us tonight to guest co-host. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tiffany.
All right. So festival is wrapping up as we are doing the show. I think the givers are on stage right now. Compared to last year, I did not festival very hard. I festivaled very light this year. I think after the amount of time that I spent there last year, I couldn't do it this year. I'm getting old, couldn't handle it. But I did go and check it out for 2 nights. Thursday night I went, Karma Caroons were doing their little ice cream sandwiches in front of the green room. They had a little pop-up shop set up there, and I got to try out the vegan ice cream. It was pretty good. I did peanut butter brownie flavor, because basically you can pick whatever flavor base you want, and then they'll add toppings to it. She rolls it up, and then I had it in a sandwich with the macaroons. Have you had them before?
I have some in my purse right now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm obsessed.
They're pretty good.
I've been to a couple of their pop-ups that they've done at the Alamo, and then at the farmer's market, and that they told me that they sell them at Rev.
Yes.
Rev carries their macaroons, and we had some today.
Yeah, they're so good. And the ice cream sandwiches are nice. They're real big. And I was just imagining when it got hot out there that those were going to be so perfect for that. They were set up with Magnolia. It's the tea place. I'm blanking on Magnolia Moon. They were set up with them, but they weren't out yet. And so I still have not got to check them out. I do know that Rev has some of their teas on tap. So I guess maybe I'll get to go check them out over there. But they were mixing them with alcohol. So have you had them?
I have. Actually, she did a pop-up when we did that benefit for with Marcus Descant.
Okay. Yeah.
To raise money for that little corner garden that they're doing. She was out there at the booth at the beer garden, serving up some little tea and bourbon. It was really delicious.
Man, tea and bourbon. You had me right there. So I didn't get to check them out. And then today we went to Rev Coffee because they're normally not open on Sundays. They were open today for a pop-up. Scratch That Farm, which is typically at the farmer's market every Saturday, was doing a little breakfast pop-up, and you could go there and get some coffee. And it was really nice. You, I think, got the best dish that they had there. It was a broccoli stir fry that had the pork was in it too.
Yeah,
correct?
you could add the pork. It had a fried egg on top. It was delicious.
It was really
over
good.
Like a brown grain rice. It was very delicious. Their pork is just phenomenal. You know, they have all these pigs on their farm, and it's definitely a treat.
Yeah, I feel like their pork is the best that I've ever tasted, and I'm convinced it's because their pigs are so happy because they eat Whole Foods leftovers pretty much. They get all their vegetables and everything, and they just free range, and they're so happy, and I think that you can taste it. I keep wanting to ask them if they sell, and I'm sure that they do, if they sell the pork other than, you know, what they're putting in their goods that they sell at the farmer's market. But
yeah, that would be interesting to find out. It
is. So as far as local raised pork goes, I have to say, like, it's the best that I've ever tasted. So that was the extent of my Festival International. Did you get to try anything else besides?
We actually didn't try anything else. You know, we walked around this afternoon, And I mean, everything looked delicious, but we didn't get a chance. But I've watched everybody's pictures on Instagram.
I know. I've been like anxiously watching everything and be like, ooh, yes, that looks good. Somebody got some boudin sliders from Bon Ton Grill that looked really good. Yeah. And if I would have had room in my stomach, I would have gone to check that out. I didn't get my normal shrimp tasso pasta from Poop Arts. Like, I didn't get all my regular things. I didn't eat there a lot this year, but I needed a break. Like, I need a little bit of a break. Acadiana Superette also did something. They did late night pop-ups, and they were doing late night plate lunches, and that you did go to that last night.
I sure did. My husband's in a band called Zydeco Radio, and they played a pop-up last night inside the Superette. They just moved all the chairs to the side and the tables out, and they made some punch, and
they were selling different cocktails.
Yeah, and they made plate lunches, and last night it was like a pork, rice, and gravy, and the night before I think Toby had done meatball stew.
Oh, that's my favorite.
And yes, it was very good, and the band played, and it was a very good time. It's neat to see these different pop-ups happening. It really makes it special for people that want to do something different, not necessarily the same thing.
I also saw a lot of businesses around town that would generally be slower this weekend because everyone's over at festival, offering specials that if you came in with your festival pin, you would get a discounted rate on whatever they were selling, which I thought was a neat idea to capitalize.
That is a good idea.
On that added business. So that was kind of cool. I'm interested to see what Acadian Superette's going to do, if they're going to do more late night things. I know that there's like a speakeasy in the back that no one knew about. Now they do. And I know that they are wanting to do more nighttime things. So that'll be cool. I mean, and they had a really good turnout. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to take our first break, and when we come back, we have more with Ramsey. So come back to us. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
She puts the wow, yum into words. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie herself on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffany Deku, and Ramsey Morien is joining us tonight as guest co-host. So instead of going to festival, I was a total nerd and stayed home and made simple syrups for my home bar because I'm trying to build up this home bar, kind of want to do more entertaining at home. And really, simple syrups are so easy to make, and if you want to seem impressive to your friends, I would suggest taking advantage and doing it with the herb garden that I've grown. It was getting time to trim, so I made a rosemary simple syrup. I did a strawberry simple syrup with the beautiful Louisiana strawberries that I got and froze a while back, and then I'm about ready to do a lavender simple syrup. And it's so easy. It's just 1 cup of water, 1 cup of sugar. Put at least, like, if you're doing rosemary, I did 4 sprigs. I kind of like it more potent though. So if you want to add more to make it a little more potent, make it potent, stir it and bring it to a boil. And then once it boils and the sugar dissolves, just let it sit and cool. And then you take whatever you put in there. If you put the rosemary in there, take the rosemary out, pour it into a jar, and it can go into the fridge. So easy, and it kind of elevates that home cocktail experience. Have you done many simple syrups? I'm sure you have at your home.
Not recently, but I have in the past.
I'm trying to. I went and purchased the biggest thing of gin. It's huge. It's so big. But to go into the home bar, and I was looking online, and I found I'm going to do a cocktail that has gin, Saint Germain, and the rosemary simple syrup in it. And I think it's going to taste so good. Oh, also, if you do something that's really fragrant like lavender or rosemary, it's going to make your house smell wonderful too. That was an added bonus of it. Let me just advise that when if you do strawberry, to please be careful. I don't know if it boiled up or when I was stirring, I got molten hot strawberry simple syrup on my hand, and it did not feel good. So that would be my one thing. I was going to try to do bitters, but they're way too complicated for me. That's a little more advanced than I'm aware of. I was talking to Chadwick Crawford, who's been on the show before. He's a bartender at Pamplona. And I was talking to him about bitters, and he was like, oh, yeah, you can do it. And then when I was researching it, I was like, nope, that's a little more advanced. I'll stick with my simple syrups for now. Have you tried to do?
I have not, so I don't even know what goes into bitters.
You have to get these special herbs that also go into it, and some of them were kind of scary.
Okay.
When I was reading it, because it was saying things about toxicity levels.
Oh.
So I was a little like, ooh, I don't think I want to play with that right now. Maybe further in my home cocktail career, I will attempt bitters, but it was a lot more involved than I was expecting. And it really complicated because it's not only like what you're wanting to bitter, but you have to add like all this alcohol and then all these different herbs to it to make the simple syrup. So it was super complicated.
Interesting.
Yeah. So not for me. And then also today I discovered, if for all of those out there that are on the ball and on a budget lifestyle, if you're in between paychecks, go check out the Dollar Tree. I wouldn't recommend it on a daily basis, but I mean, if you're in a bind, they have a good selection of pasta. They have different marinara sauces. They also have gnocchi and pesto is what I discovered today. I've been passing that gnocchi, and today I finally broke down and bought some, and the pesto too. So I'm going to take it home and experiment to see. I was telling one of my good friends that we should have a Dollar Tree food challenge to just cook a meal you were saying under $5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Under $5 to kind of see how far we can get and what it tastes like. But I'll let all of you know out there how much my $2 gnocchi meal tastes, which is amazing to me too, because gnocchi's like $18 to $20 if you go to a restaurant to get it. 'Cause, I mean, they're probably making the gnocchi in house there, but I mean, still, like, that's a big price difference. So I'm a little scared, but I should be fine. I will let everyone out there listening know. On the topic of pasta, you've been making a lot of pasta at home. It started with baking bread, and then you moved on to pasta. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So it started out, a friend of mine, Diego Martin Perez. So back in 2012, he started baking bread, and then he moved here to Lafayette, and he recently picked up baking bread again. He received a book from Denny Colbert called The Tartine Baker. And so it all started with this book. And so the book gives you this formula to create your own natural leaven, and then, to create, sourdough breads. And so the book is basically stories of, he mapped out the formula, gave it to a bunch of people and said, go out, bake your bread, and then write about it. So it's, everybody's following the same recipe. And there's so many factors that go into baking bread. The weather is a huge factor. And here with all of our humidity, it's
kind of hard.
It's a challenge. Yeah. It is a challenge. But so I saw that my friend on Instagram was baking bread and was like, I want to do that. And I approached him one night, and he invited me over, and we started baking bread. And it was just so therapeutic. I kind of have a stressful job, like everyone else. So at the end of the day, to just use your hands and create something that, that you get to enjoy is just so rewarding. And so baking bread is very, very time consuming. And as much as I enjoy it, I decided to start making pasta. Basically simple ingredients, just like bread. And it's higher turnover. It doesn't take as long to make pasta as it is to make sourdough bread. And that's basically how I got into it. Just 2 cups of flour, 3 eggs, a dash of salt, some olive oil, and I whip the eggs in create like a bowl with the flour, whip the eggs in it, incorporate the rest of the flour into the eggs, and work the dough.
That's it. So it doesn't have to sit and rest or rise.
It does rest.
Okay, it does need to rest.
After, so it makes about a pound of pasta, that recipe. 2 cups of flour, 3 eggs makes about a pound of pasta. So then I'll break it up into 3 equal little balls and wrap it in saran wrap and just let it rest on the table for about an hour, 45 minutes. And then I'll roll it out with a pin, and I have like a pasta crank.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, if you had like a pasta maker that you actually put it through.
Yeah, so it's just, it attaches to, it's a kitchenware, it just attaches to your countertop. And it has like a cranking mechanism that you pass the pasta through, and you move different settings and it gets thinner.
Now, does the pasta then have to dry out a little bit?
When I first started doing it, it didn't dry it out, and I put it straight into the water, and I found that it was very tacky. The consistency wasn't right, and I was like, I knew that there was something I was missing. So 2 times later, I started drying the pasta, and it's perfect.
How long do you dry it for?
I just like to touch.
Okay.
Yeah, it really doesn't take long.
It doesn't take long.
Not at all.
I'm imagining your kitchen with like pasta hanging everywhere. Is that kind of the idea of what's happening there?
Yes. If you've seen on my Instagram, I have a butcher string that will run across from one side of the cabinets to the other, and that's how I hang my pasta.
So have you done just kind of like fettuccine noodles? Have you done ravioli?
I haven't done ravioli, though. I did go on a trip recently and got a little ravioli wheel.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about that.
So I will be making some ravioli soon. But I've been making fettuccine and just a regular thin spaghetti pasta. And, it's good.
So how long does it have to boil for? Does it not as long as completely dried pasta, I'm assuming?
Not as long at all. They say like 3 to 5 minutes.
And can you taste the difference now if you go somewhere and it's box pasta as opposed to fresh pasta?
Absolutely.
It's just, how would you describe the difference?
I find it's smoother because in my opinion, once the pasta has dried out for so long, it loses a lot of its flavor. And
so it has a little more flavor to it.
I would say so, yeah. And it tastes buttery, kind of from the starch, I guess, because it probably has a lot more. I don't know how to describe the chewiness of the pasta.
Okay, so it has a little. That's how I would have suggested it too. And I guess, do you salt? I'm sure you salt your water, and it kind of like adds to the flavor, so it kind of like holds it in there.
Yes,
more interesting.
It's very good.
So, and then it's nice and relaxing because I mean it's real simple ingredients, but it's still time consuming to make, and it's almost a form of meditation is what I've described cooking at home and baking especially, and I'm sure pasta making as well. It's almost like its own form of meditation. Absolutely,
it's my food therapy. And you mentioned pesto, and I've been making fresh pestos too, just like herb pastas. Trying to do a veggie night at least once a week,
I did a dandelion pesto around Christmas time because I had gotten a dandelion in my CSA and I kind of hated it. I hated it. Yeah. And I found this recipe to make it into pesto and I was like, oh, I bet I would like that. And I really did. Like it
was good.
If you don't like dandelion, do it in a pesto and it'll change your opinion of it. And I mean, it's nice too because you can put it up and freeze it. And I have a basil plant, and one of my hopes with the basil plant was that I was going to have all this basil to be able to make pesto with and freeze it. And unfortunately, my basil's not producing that amount of basil, so I don't think I'm going to be able to make any pesto with it. But because you need so much of it. Sure. I almost feel like I need 5 plants to make enough.
I'll I add parsley
Okay.
So if I don't have enough basil, I'll add parsley. I'll add other herbs. Pesto isn't necessarily have to be just basil.
Yeah. And that's like cilantro too.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cilantro. Chimichurri is what I was thinking of with the cilantro. And I mean, you can kind of add stuff. I started adding carrot tops to the stuff because I have a ton of those. So I'll use that.
Like parsley.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we are going to take another break. And when we come back, we have more with Ramsey. So come back to us. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Now, the Lafayette Food Junkie Show, served up medium rare every Sunday night.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffany Daku, and joining tonight as guest co-host has been Mr. Ramsey Morien. You were telling me earlier about how you make your cauliflower rice, and tell us about that, because I'm thinking of this is probably sacrilege, of making a rice and gravy, but using cauliflower rice. Yeah. So you want to tell me how you make yours?
Sure. Yes. I've had a lot of people ask me about this because, with the whole 360 trend, and I mean, maybe I shouldn't say trend, but that movement towards eating less carbs, I guess. And carbs is my thing. I like carbs. I'm not giving them up. And gluten too. I love it.
Love it all.
I love it all. But it's nice to have an alternative, paleo, 360. So what I do is I take the whole cauliflower, I'll chop it up, rough chop, and I'll put it in a food processor and, just do a couple of rounds. You don't want it too fine, grainy.
Yeah.
You kind of want it a little coarse. And then I'll take a cheesecloth or paper towel and pat it dry because there's a lot of excess water that comes out.
Yes.
And so I felt like that was like the main complaint I had, is that it was like mushy because it was wet. So I dry it off and I put the oven on like 250, put some olive oil. I flatten it out on like a baking sheet or a pizza pan, so where they're not on top of each other.
Right.
Sprinkle olive oil, salt, cracked pepper, and I put it in the oven and I just check it. And it kind of
crisps up.
Okay. And it still has the moisture from the olive oil, so it does get soft like a rice, but not soggy into mush.
Huh. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to try that because I really think that's. I'm not a big gravy girl. Mm-hmm. I am a big gravy girl. I love to eat gravy, but it's not something that I typically cook at home. Mm-hmm. And a while back, a girlfriend of mine, we were giving our other friend cooking lessons, and she was teaching her how to make a rice and gravy. Mm-hmm. And I had never watched it done that way before, I guess. So it was like new to me. And so from leaving that, I was like, oh, I want to go home and make it that way. But I was like, ooh, I don't really eat rice. So I wanted to try the broccoli, the cauliflower. So I think I'm going to have to give that a try and see.
It's good. I like it.
How you love to cook at home. How often do you cook every night or?
If I can, I would. I work late nights sometimes.
Yeah.
And so my husband has also learned to love to cook. We live a busy life like everyone else. And so we take turns, but as often as I can, I try to do it at least 2 or 3 times a week.
That's how often I usually cook too.
Yeah.
I try to at least. It doesn't always work out.
No.
Yeah. So you've retired from the restaurant industry, and what have you taken with you from that to the career that you have now?
I have a lot of patience.
Yeah.
And I find that, working with the professional chefs that I've worked with, I appreciate how well they would explain things and give instruction. And I feel like when I'm with a client or if I'm, delegating a process to a coworker, I find that I explain things very well because it's like a recipe for success.
That is such a good way to think about that. I like that a lot.
Yes. And so, you can't boil water without putting water in the pot first, So I feel that that's probably the most helpful thing that I've taken away that I can apply to my job. And then everyone in my office knows that I cook, and they make me bake for them all the time.
Nice. The office baker.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that you miss about working in the restaurant industry?
Everything. No. Mainly the camaraderie, that you have. I mean, working that closely in the back of house of a restaurant, you form relationships with people. You spend tireless hours on your feet with these folks. And it's like you're in your own little club, Y'all, we were very involved in each other's day-to-day lives. And it's nice. It's nice because, you're around all of these elements in a kitchen. And it brings you a special kind of closeness to the folks that you work with.
You recently came back from a trip from Tennessee, and you were telling me about you had a lot of wonderful food while you were there, and you were telling me about one dish in particular that involved red-eye gravy, which happens to be a favorite of both of ours.
Yes. So I took a trip up to Birmingham and then on to around Knoxville, Tennessee. And unfortunately, it rained. We had lots of plans to travel around the area. So we do what we always do and find good restaurants and eat some good food. And we made a trip out to Knoxville, downtown, which is beautiful. If you haven't been, it's a wonderful drive up there. It's really is a beautiful town. This is the first time I'd ever been.
Oh, wow.
So we went to this restaurant called Knox Maison, and the executive chef there, owner, his name is Matt Galler. He's been cooking around the local food scene there for years. I think they said something, however many years he's been cooking in the farm-to-table restaurants there, and opened up this place, I guess, a few years ago. And it was delicious. It's a cute little restaurant that opens. It's like a open windows. The setting's beautiful. It's subway tile. They have a bar and then like a booth set up on the opposite end, and you can see into the kitchen. You watch the line cook, which I love. Yeah. I love sitting in front of chef and watching him watch me enjoy the food that he's created. But it was delicious. He made this, we went for brunch, and it was this red-eye gravy at the bottom of the bowl with grits on top. The grits were amazing. And a fried catfish fillet and just, herbs. And it was absolutely delicious. I hadn't had a red-eye gravy like that in a long time. It was very mellow. It wasn't bitter. You could taste the smokiness of the gravy, and it really married well together with the dish.
We should mention also that red-eye gravy, if you're not familiar, is gravy that's made with coffee.
Yes.
In case no one out there is familiar with it. It is a very southern, maybe not so much here in Acadiana, but it is a southern style of gravy. And it is quite delicious. Dark Roux, I think, is the only restaurant around here. They'll have it every now and then as a special that I've seen it. They have it on their brunch menu, and it's delicious. Yes. It's typically served with ham, too, a lot of times. They'll serve it with country-style ham.
Okay.
Is a lot of places that I'll see it. But that sounds delicious with the catfish. I'm on such a catfish kick right now, but I'm so particular about how my fish is fried. So it's like I don't eat it a whole lot, but yeah, that sounds so good. And a good grit. Yes. Like, it's sometimes hard to come by.
It's true. I I've definitely had my fair share of bad ones.
Yes. I think everyone has, and it makes you question things. Ramsey, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
As guest co-host. It's been fun. It's been a delight.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
All right. That's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Join us next week, Sunday at 6 p.m. This is Tiffany Deku on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. And this is the Lafayette Food Junkie Show. Thanks for listening. And as always, happy eating, Acadiana.